Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful. When the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning. You know what? I want to go back to sleep, to be honest with you today. It's Monday. It sucks. I don't know what the deal is, so I just don't feel up to it today. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I missed a medication or something. Making my inflammation worse or something. Anyways, you don't care about that. Let's go to the charts. Treasuries took a real dive on Friday. It really started to get quite extreme, and I was really surprised at how far it went, but I was not really able to catch any of it. This morning, right from the open, we're seeing pretty strong mean reversion, right? S&P 500 also recovering after, this was the worst week of the year so far. So, and I guess it makes sense that it's Monday and maybe they're buying. Here, oil's not really doing anything too interesting. We're seeing natural gas up over the last 3 or 4 days here. So, that is a little curious to me, that amount of trend, and especially like the timing of it is a little weird to me. The seasonality of it. Gold and silver still down. Man, silver got just savaged last Friday. And Kappa also got hit too. But yeah, well, they're below $4 now, so. Oh my gosh, where's my 6J? There we go. All right. And then we come over here to the 60 and the dollar. Still above 105. So I don't think it's the currencies that's causing the markets to move here a little bit on the open. And Bitcoin, they took a little bit of a dive on Friday, but are trying to recover it. So I'll leave that one up right there. And let's see here. Next thing, since it's a Monday, we need to come over here and look at the schedule for the week, yeah? Because I think at the beginning of this week we don't have too much. So let's see. Oh my gosh, do I need to... I only care about the US dollar here. This week, economic data. Well, okay, we get core durable goods here in 15 seconds. That's going to be an important one. Oh, I do need to start the news squawk. Don't have that going. So let's see here. The estimate is spot 2. Spot 7. Okay, so U.S. durable goods was negative 4 spot 5 minus a negative 4, and the core durable goods was spot 7 versus an expected spot 2. So that's a little interesting that core is higher. That's not necessarily a good thing, but the treasury market doesn't seem to be reacting to it too strongly. So, all right. Anyways, coming back over here. Oh, we got Chicago PMI tomorrow. Well, that's kind of an interesting last day of the month for that to be out there, huh? And then CB consumer confidence. On Monday, we start getting PMIs again, ISMs, and oh wait, we don't get FO, or we don't get non-farms on Friday? What's with that? So is non-farms next week? Yeah. Why is non-farms on the 10th? What's with that? Is it not on? Is there? Oops. They have maybe something to do with it being like the 28th or something? I don't know. What's with that? Well, okay, whatever. But that means that this week it really is a pretty light week. Most of our best stuff we got is tomorrow. PMI and consumer confidence. Well, the markets could use a break. Last week was a little rough. A little rough. In the meantime, I got a video coming out today, and I think it's going to be a good video. I think it's like most of the videos for you guys that are here every day on the stream, probably already going to have a lot of this stuff. But I feel like it was that one. It was something that like new traders were really missing. So putting that out. I'm also putting out the strategy PDF today. I finished writing it and I'm gonna put it out. There's probably like tons of stupid mistakes in it, and we could probably like make it look better and put pictures in and things like that. But it's to a spot where I want to start putting it out there. So you go and sign up on the mailing list, and it will email the PDF to you as an attachment. There's also the link to the Google Docs version of it. See, look, they're still pushing up here, man. You know, this buying could be part of end of month rebalancing. Because that sure seems strong. I mean, there was the news, but they basically ignored the news. I really think that the end of month, I don't have a strong enough opinion on this to want to be taking a trade solely based on that. But I do suspect that the end of month rebalancing is going to be in favor of going long the treasuries. Because the equities got hammered so bad. Well, I mean, they all got hammered really bad, really. Oh, look, the dollar is moving here. Wow. That, When a currency starts moving like that, I don't know, it's 10 cents. It's 10 cents. But I start to get suspicious because there could be news out there that we don't have. Like people can front run it in the currencies, right? So I'm a little bit worried about that now. I mean, my only choice, the only thing I can do here with it is hope that I get a short at 3.94, which I'm not really liking. 3.95 area is still kind of, you know, just par for the course style. But look, the dollar, it looks like it's going to keep going. Or let's say it could keep going. I don't know, man. Could this be the UK stuff? What was this? DUP expected to accept the protocol deal. DUP sources pouring cold water on story. I mean, I am seeing the British pound spiking quite seriously here, but like everything is spiking. So who's to say that that's really what's driving it? Still looks like big volume on the June contracts. Really? That's interesting too. I mean, look at this. So I said the worst, all I could do is 3.94 and I didn't like it. There's another basis point. It's not backing off. I mean, I think this is a dangerous move. This seems like the kind of move that it could reverse on you really hard, right? So I think we'd have to be really careful about where we get in on it at, and especially it being Monday and me not feeling very good. I think that it's better for me to just kind of sit back and pass on this one. I'm really suspicious about what's really causing this. Suspicious is probably not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not... I just don't have the gutso to just kind of go along with the trend on this one. Doesn't look like a... Well, I mean, you got me there, Mr. M. I definitely don't think this looks like a sell day to me. I think that initial move, like, as soon as they opened up, is a little telling. And that's why, again, I do suspect that there could be some end-of-month buying going on here in the treasuries. Although, normally, that kind of behavior would be stronger tomorrow. In fact, as of late, I've been noticing that they put most of it into the closing auction, So we'll see. But this is moving like a news move, right? The dollar is just careening here. It's down 10 cents. I mean, I know 10 cents isn't like a huge deal, but that's still a relatively large move for the dollar. And the forcefulness with which it happened really suggests informed trading to me. And the issue is if we take like 19 and this thing retraces, like the best case scenario if this retraces is that it goes to 14.5, right? So you're going to be buried. It could keep trending and it could be a trend day for all I know, but I just, it's not the best place. And especially since we do appear to have a liquidity hole here at 20. I mean, almost 10,000 contracts have already traded there. Yeah, 10,000 contracts have already traded there. They're really going to have some really forceful order flow to continue pushing this. Well, the offers aren't standing in the way. There's a data at least. Yeah, the short-term delta looks super positive. Yeah, move has already been 10,000 contracts. This is already 10,000 contracts, and again, like the offers are kind of being a little scared. There's 1,500 there at 22, but like they're hitting them really hard. Like I don't think I have the guts though to like reverse it. The S&P 500 rallying back above 4,000 again, man. Hey, good morning, Omar. This is all like really interesting. I came in today hoping that it would be a quiet day and maybe a quiet week. But I also kind of suspected, given that we had some crazy stuff last week and that there would still be some big moves and repositioning that would need to happen, and it looks like it's the latter, I guess. It really sucks when you're not the one in the know, you know what I mean? Like, that's really the issue here is I think that for a beginner, you come in and you hear me saying what I'm saying, and it's like, wow, then why aren't you just trading it? Well, if I'm only trading it based purely on the market data, how do I know that it's really going to continue to trend? And I know that I'm getting a poor spot risk reward wise, right? So like that's a really hard trade to take. And so coming back to 20, by the way, right? If I don't know why they're doing it, right? And I guess we have a couple of theories, but I don't think they really match. It's just a really crazy strong move in the dollar. I guess part of the reason why I feel like quote suspicious, I don't think suspicious is really the right word, but I can't think of anything better, is that I'm thinking that this might be news that hasn't hit the market yet. Like the banks know and they're moving the dollar, but the market hasn't gotten the headline yet. What could it be though? So it could be the Northern Ireland Protocol thing. It's possible. Could also be something to do with like China and Ukraine. So the big I guess question kind of story thing that's been lurking out there is that China is considering providing aid to Russia. So it seems like what's happening is that China sees U.S. geopolitical dominance is a roadblock to their own dominance and prosperity. And they think that the way that they push against that is by creating a coalition of people to press against the United States. It seems like the Chinese don't really care who those people are. and so Xi is kind of aligning himself with Russia and saying, well, if we continue to allow this Ukraine thing to go along, then Russia is just going to absolutely destroy itself. So we can't allow that to happen. We have to let Russia, we have to put the money in and force the West to back off. If China got involved, that would be so bad, right? That would be so bad. I don't think that it would escalate into a real war or anything like that. Maybe we would start applying sanctions to China, but the West, let's say, is putting a lot of money into this thing, right? And if China comes in and starts dumping money into it too, you can't win that one, right? I would think that you would want to cut your losses then and there, but they don't. So like the whole thing just seems really bad to me. So I think that if China had made a more clear backing of Russia, that might cause a move. Would it cause the dollar to weaken? Maybe. Maybe it could cause the dollar to weaken. So I guess that one's a possibility, and I'm not sure. What else could it be? By the way, I'm not seeing oil move. I am seeing gold move up with everything else, but not too strongly. I am seeing Bitcoin move up pretty strongly. Corn not reacting. Copper not really doing anything. Well, I mean, it did move up, but not. Nah, I think that copper would be moving more strongly if it had something to do with China. So I don't think that's it. Let me just come back down through here. The only news headlines that I see have to do with this Northern Ireland protocol thing. And the news, durable goods. Nah, it's got to be the Northern Ireland protocol thing. So I think what we need to do is we need to look at the pound versus the euro, yeah? Euro, GBC, yeah. Okay, the euro is falling compared to the pound. I think it is the Northern Ireland thing. Well, I'm quite surprised by how strong of a move this is, especially in the treasuries. But I suppose one thing that you could see is like if funds had themselves hedged by buying U.S. treasuries because they were concerned that their money wasn't safe over in the UK, they could sell their bonds and bring it back to the pound, right? And that might create a little bit stronger of a move than we're maybe used to. Oh, I enter, so I will enter a trade maybe once or twice a day, right? And you're often going to find days where I don't take a trade all day. No. I know that everybody wants to think that trading is like you're in a trade like literally all of the time. Okay. But with the way that we trade, the risk of that is not really worth it. You really need to be very, very the more selective with your trades you are, the better you're going to do, generally speaking. Right. I started to do way, way, way better when I started to get really, really picky about my trades. Okay. So now that I've made a decision that I'm pretty sure it's the UK news. At what point do I think this is too much? Do I think like man? Okay, so I thought that the movement down that we saw on Friday was pretty strong. This has retraced almost all of Friday's move within the course of like 10 minutes. So I really think that I have to sit here and say I missed this move and not participate still. And it's being a Monday. That's the other thing, is I usually don't trade. I intentionally avoid trades on Monday and Fridays. Those have always been my worst days. So somebody was posting though, like they would like to be able to see when I took the trades. So there's another side to this, which is that I don't really want people to follow my trades. So I tend to be a little coy about it. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say, all right, I'm thinking about doing this. This is what I'm going to do. This is why, all of these sorts of things, right? Like, I'll talk it through with you guys what I think are driving the markets right now, so that we can kind of sort out together what are potential predictors of order flow that we have, and to share that information. But I don't want people to explicitly follow the trade. So I will usually click in without saying anything. I will, it's really common for people to be like, you know, they're only listening to the audio and then go, oh, Seth got into a trade I didn't realize. I do that intentionally because I don't want to be, you know, because what I could do is I could come in and say, okay, I'm going to buy it. All right, you guys all buy it. Everybody buy it. Let's do it now. Go. And just kind of try and write off of other people's execution impact. And I think that would be immoral. So that's part of it too. I want to take a trade in a situation where if I took a trade and somebody was watching the stream and they had enough to, let's say that they're working for a bank or something like that, and they had enough to move the market against me or something, you know, I would want it to be in a situation where they would not want to do that, where the risk to them would be just too great, right? That's what I think of when if I'm going to take a trade or not, right? So that's not every day, right? That's not every day that I have something that strong. Lots of reasons not to trade. Well, it is. You got to understand though, the bigger thing here is that being really selective with your trades can really help your trading, right? I mean, when you're new, it's okay to get in a lot of positions and everything, and you're still figuring everything out, right? But the further along you get, I think you're going to find that the more selective you are with it, the better off you are. Yeah. Well, and I really try and look at this more as like, you know, we're all trading together and we're hanging out, and, you know, it can be really boring. So let's have a discussion and share ideas and stuff like that, rather than, okay, you know, I'm gonna show you how it's done. Yeah. The market is so, well, it's actually a little bit lighter this morning than it was last week. But, yeah, I don't know. Let me see here. Let me consult my numbers. So this market is not actually that. Well, okay, so they traded about 6,000 contracts in the S&P 500, and that moved them 20 points. So, what? 6,000 divided by 20? But it's like a square root law, but still 300 contracts. Can't tell people that they suck at day trading if they see you suck at it. Well, I've been doing really good though. Did you see in the back of the video I showed the all trades performance at the end, and it's really is like, for many years it was like I would have a good period of the year and then they blow it, and then I have a good period of the year and blow it, and then the last year and a half has just kind of been like steady. Narcissism first. So I was thinking about this the other day because I really think, I don't know why I think about narcissism as much as I do, I think it might just be because it's an issue that comes up in society so much. Like there's lots of people. I think the reason that it had come up to me was that people were saying that Jordan Peterson was a narcissist, which just doesn't, like, I get if you don't like the guy, but I don't think he's a narcissist. Okay. That to me is just kind of evidence that people are throwing this term around everywhere because it's like the hot word, and like they must not really understand what it is, or I don't know, right? But it really seems to me like narcissism kills trading. When you come in and so to me the thing that causes the narcissism, right, is the narcissistic injury, right? So like when you feel like you've been slighted, right? This person, they said something about me. They said I'm not a good trader. And then you go, well, I'll show them. I'm going to become the greatest trader ever. You know, this kind of enemy kind of mentality sort of thing that you want the revenge. Or you know, like Vegeta, he's supposed to be the Saiyan prince, right? And then this other guy is clearly better than him. And that just makes him like pissed off, and he wants to. It's narcissism, man. That's narcissism. Okay. When you go into that mode, and that becomes like the driving factor behind your behavior, that's where you get into narcissistic personality disorder, and you end up doing things that can be really harmful to yourself. And in particular, trading. When that's the thing that's driving your trading, it kills traders, man, because no matter what you do, you can only be so much to the market. You know what I mean? Like the whole reason that we have a market is because it's difficult to get all of the information in one spot to be able to make decisions, right? No one entity could ever collect all of that information. So we have to have a market. And that means that everybody that's participating in the market, you really have to be humble because you're only a small fraction of it, no matter what. You might have the advantage in certain situations, okay? But nobody can just completely control the market. It can't be done, right? So narcissism can really, really kill the trading. And I feel that one of the things that has helped me a lot is not being affected by the narcissism. That I can come in and I can make mistakes. I can do it in front of a stream. It doesn't really bother me. Most people too narcissistic to do that, to go in front of a stream and fail. Too many people are too narcissistic to be able to come in and say, well, like, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. It's really hard to find anything, and you know, we're just kind of picking up scraps, right? That doesn't appeal to our sense of narcissism, that we want to be the greatest ever and all this sort of shit, right? Well, is that because I am just like naturally humble or something like that? I don't think so. I think that I can be quite confident and quite full of myself by default. Like that is my natural tendency, I think, is to say, I know what's going on. You're all wrong. It's you're all full of shit. Right. I'm constantly having issues dealing with either interacting with people through comments online or just watching TikToks in general, because I'm sitting here like, well, this is clearly the way that things are, and these people see it differently. And how can they, like, are they that stupid? Like, how can anybody, they must be clearly uninformed. Like, it's hard for me to even sort out what they can even be thinking, right? And it's just like the natural thing for me is always to go, well, they must, you know, I must just be a lot smarter than them or something. But the thing is that you're gonna fail so much that you really have no choice but to yield to it. You know, like that narcissism, if you're really seriously trading, it just gets beaten out of you. Just gets beaten out of you. And I'm ADHD, so that kind of, as a person with ADHD, you kind of start to get to a place where you don't 100% trust your especially your snap judgment about things, right? And that's the only reason why. It's the only reason why I am the way that it's not because I'm like particularly humble, right? I have to talk about ADHD every day because like that is a serious factor behind why I think and do things the way that I do, right? Anyways, so yeah, I guess I kind of came into that other thing. So yesterday, can we get into this political? Hold on a second. Let me finish this this English muffin here. I want to hear you too. Nah. There was definitely a point where you were more humble, maybe. I think the thing that's changed about me more recently, like since the pandemic, I guess you could say, is that I've become a lot more confident about what I'm teaching, right? So there was a lot of things that I kind of knew, and I would say to people is like, well, I don't think that approach would necessarily be helpful to you, or that kind of a view of the market is really accurate to what things go. And I could maybe have my reasons, but it was still kind of like Seth's opinion, and it's hard to justify why it's Seth's opinion. And what happened was we found a lot of research. I think that some of the research contradicted some of the things that I thought for sure in key places that really made a difference to my trading, but it also largely supported the things that I was saying before, right? And so I came out into this point of like, I can tell people things about, you know, what is really going to work for you and not work for you, and back it up with evidence. And so I can come out and say that sort of thing confidently, right? So like I can very confidently say these are the 4 or 5 main reasons why when a retail trader starts trading, they suck at it, right? And it really is, you're gonna see in the video, it really is because they neglect critical parts of strategy. There are certain things about the market that they're just not even watching, right? I can say that with 100% confidence, and I don't think that necessarily has to do with humility, right? I think that confidence and humility can be different things, right? The humility part is at the end when we say, okay, even with all that, now that you're armed with the key tools, it's still hard, because all that really does is make you competitive. It means that you stand a chance. It doesn't mean that you're actually going to be a successful trader still. The majority of people will still fail, right? That's where you bring the humility into it, right? I do think it's kind of funny that you complicate what is colloquially known as fundamental info in the trading world. You just call it predictors of order flow, and retail traders do tend to ignore that. Well, but it's not it's not all fundamental information though, right? Like that's the thing is some of it is fundamentals, but other parts of it are like positioning and game theory, actually, to be honest. So I think the whole thing here, one of the things that is kind of underlying all of this, and I guess I don't talk about it a whole lot because I don't know if I have a solid enough framework with which to discuss it with people where I really feel like it would really make sense to them, right? But the thing that I'm trying to get across with that is that the traditional separation that we have created in the finance industry between technical data and fundamental data is not really very useful to you, right? You think it's because it's tricky to find or like up to interpretation? That might be. Well, I think that what happens is that like you come in and you look at an economic number and you say, okay, is that economic number good for the economy or bad for the economy? And then if that is good for the economy, hold on a second, I just realized something. Forgot to turn on the fan. If that economic number is good for the economy, then the stock market should go up, right? And that's not what happens. Like, and so the conclusion that they make is that fundamentals don't matter, right? Well, that's a totally different issue, Uzi. But I wish that I understood what was going on there. I mean, it's so Uzi is pointing out the CPI data over the last 3 months, it's all been revised higher. Yeah. I mean, I understand generally what's happening, that because of seasonal factors and things like that, that a lot of these numbers are getting revised after the fact, and that there are like really significant seasonal revisions in these numbers. And I don't know deeply enough about the models necessarily to be able to come in and look at a piece of news as it happened and be able to say, okay, this is like what it really is. It really has gotten into the point where really this year, these first 2 months of data, it really has been like, you just can't even trust the data, isn't it? Like seriously. I mean, I this has kind of been a feeling in the back of my head for several months now. But now that we're kind of getting to the point that we are, it's really starting to get like, it's really starting to bother me that it's like, we have this information, doesn't look like this information is very reliable, and yet that's what it looks like the Federal Reserve is using to make their decisions. You know, when it was the housing numbers, you know, well, housing is kind of driving inflation, and those numbers aren't going to be reflected in the data until long after it's already cooled down, sort of a thing. Then it was fair. It was like the Federal Reserve was aware of it, and they were factoring that in, right? But now that the issue is like manufacturing is cratering and parts of the economy look like they're going into a recession, and meanwhile everything else and the S&P 500 all looks hunky-dory, right? And so the Federal Reserve is going to continue raising rates, and I can't actually say what's really going to happen. I think that my ability to predict what's going to happen in 6 months is significantly limited from what it normally would be, because I don't feel like I can trust the numbers, you know? Why do you favor treasury markets over other futures products? What advice would you give to the new trader? Okay, Taiwan, that's a really good question. So the reason that I like the treasuries is 3 reasons, okay? There's 3 reasons that I can think of. I think I might list others in the videos that I made about treasuries, but here's the 3 things that I really care about. First is that the treasuries have the most liquidity. So the more liquidity that there is in an instrument, quantitatively speaking, the more predictive signals there typically are. And these predictive signals are often have a lot to do with like seasonality and things like that. So basically what it turns into is there are so many large institutions and so forth that do things in the treasuries that it creates a lot more opportunities where we can predict what they're going to do. Okay, so it has the most liquidity. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the treasuries are like a primary market, or what I mean by that is, of course, there's like the futures and then there's the cash market. But studies have found that the price action originates in the futures. So you can come and look at the order flow in the futures, and it's giving you a pretty accurate picture as to what they are doing in the market, if market orders are coming in and pushing us up or whatnot, right? Well, when you compare that to the S&P 500, the direction of market orders is not nearly as reliable in the S&P 500. I'd say it's still pretty good. It's still something that you would want to watch. But it is not as reliable in the S&P 500. And the S&P 500 just has a lot of randomness to it in general, right? So that's point number 2. And point number 3, which studies? I wish I could remember the name of it, but you should be able to find these on SSSRN really easily about treasuries, that price action originates in the futures. What is reliable on the S&P 5? I wish I knew. I've had moments of brilliance on the S&P 500, but in general, I found that one really hard to trade, right? And the last thing is that the information that you need to be able to trade the treasuries, like fundamental information, predictors of order flow, end of month rebalancing, things like that for the treasuries is much more accessible to retail traders than many of the other markets. I think the one other market that you can work this sort of stuff out in is oil, right? If I couldn't do treasuries, I think that I would probably have to go over to oil, right? Copper is a really interesting instrument to me, for instance, right? But if there's a strike in South America at a major copper mine, and that's going to affect the copper around the world, right? I'm not going to hear about that. Where am I going to hear about that, right? My news squawk usually doesn't cover that stuff. I don't see people on Twitter covering that stuff. You get what I mean? It's like the things that are really affecting the copper market, there's got to be resources out there that are available to professionals, but you're going to have to pay like an arm and a leg for it. And it's probably not going to be realistic for a retail trader to do it. And really, it would only make sense to trade copper if you had like somehow worked in the industry and had some sort of unique insight into it, right? Whereas in the treasuries, the things that are moving the treasuries are like Federal Reserve policy, economic numbers, and stuff like that. And so you're going to find a lot more information that can be actionable in the treasuries. So that's why I like the treasuries, right? What are the ticker symbols for the treasuries? It's not the micro. Yeah. So, I mean, you can totally do it with the micros. Like I'm putting most of my trades in the micro 10-year. Okay. There is, I would recommend looking at ZB, ZN, and ZF at the very least. There is also TN is kind of starting to get popular and may eventually replace ZN. Okay. And there's also UB, which is like an ultra 30-year, and there's ZT, which is a 2-year. Okay. So those are like what? Those are 5 that you can look at. No, 6. Those are 6 different treasuries that you can look at. And then there's the micros. So, you can watch ZN and see the order flow in ZN and then use that to make your decisions over here in the micros. And that's largely what I'm doing. Right. You think we'll revert to lows? Yeah, let's see. So in the 10-year, if we come back over here, check this out, man. This is exactly, I mean, isn't this almost exactly what I warned about? Look at the cumulative delta. So we had about 10,000 contracts long or so, something like that. We are now at new lows in cumulative delta. Although, we gotta be careful. So look, normally if you have a move that is like equal move up, right? If you buy 10,000 contracts and then immediately sell 10,000 contracts, then the sell should have more impact than the buy, and it's not. It's not doing that. Also, if we come back over here, oh, I guess I can't. I guess I have to come back over here to this way. If you look just right here to my dollar index, you can see the dollar is coming back, but not too strongly. So that suggests to me that the treasury is moving more based off of the correlation with the dollar index than it is based on the order flow in the treasury itself right now. That's what it seems like to me, because it's unusual for them to sell 10,000 contracts and still be up here, right? Are you doing spread trading? I wish. I've been really working to try and find like scalps that I can take with spreads. We've identified a couple of trades that I don't know if are really appropriate for me, but could maybe last over the duration of a contract, for instance, with spreads. But I haven't really been able to find like stylized behaviors of spreads that I felt like gave me a good edge to trade them. So I'm mostly just trading the outrights. Like most of my live trades are an outright position in the micro tenure, right? I could trade ZN, but it's so much better for me to just trade super small. It can be stressful sometimes, and I'm not like I mean, I guess if I really wanted to make the stream as popular as possible, I should be out there and like shooting huge clips and stuff like that. But I trade a lot better if I keep it small. So okay, but with all that said, it doing something like that where it's not really following through with what the flows would commonly dictate, that's a really good reason for me to not want to touch it, right? But I guess I would say that I would expect the dollar to continue being a dominant factor. And I think that this reinforces our theory earlier that the market was just moving off of the news that the Northern Ireland Protocol deal is going to go through. And that's been creating a currency move. No, I'm on June now. So for the micros, I'm still in February. I won't switch those until after tomorrow. I won't switch those until Wednesday. I could maybe switch them tomorrow. You might see the liquidity start to move tomorrow, and then maybe I'll do it. But these next few days, we're in a period where I don't like to trade in general, right? Like the month is over, and then you're like at the beginning of a new contract as well. You're likely to see better moves then. So I'd rather trade Wednesday, except for that all of the news is on Tuesday. So I guess I will probably need to take a trade tomorrow, or I'm likely to take a trade tomorrow. But current conditions, I think I'm unlikely to take a trade today. Right. Okay, so I want to go back to what we were talking about before. Can you work only on a single time frame? So I mean, I don't really utilize the technical analysis in my trading like that, right? So you could definitely come in and be like, you know, like here I have on the upper right here, I have a 1 minute chart, then I have a 5 minute chart in ES. And if you want to watch like all of these different markets and all that sort of thing, you want to see your technical indicators on different time frames and stuff. But I just don't find that to be useful, because these things that we look at in the treasuries, like, look, I'm looking at volatility. Okay, volatility is a thing. Just like, don't think that it's like, oh, it came outside of my bands here, I should take it short, or oh, they crossed my ATR stop, I should take it long. I don't treat it that way. but I am factoring in what is the volatility for me to know how far it might move at any given time. I'm using this R squared to see how much trend is in the market, right? I don't need 6 different time frames to do that, right? Now, where it might be useful is, you know, like if I come to a daily chart, it was like, what was the overnight highs and lows? What was the previous day's highs and lows? Because that does seem to trigger orders. How it triggers orders is a little bit inconsistent and random, but that does seem to trigger orders. And if you kind of know what's going on, you know, like, you know, oh, well, we've got a large buy meta order and it's going to keep coming. Oh, and we've got the highs here. Then I definitely want to be long, because those highs is just going to only create more buying, right? But I'm always avoiding taking it from a technical perspective, which is to say that historically X has happened, so that means there's a 55% chance that it will turn out this way. You know, I avoid that altogether. And so multiple timeframes don't really matter, right? I would rather spend my screen real estate looking at multiple instruments than I would multiple timeframes. And that's part of the kind of the driver behind a couple of the indicators that we have made in the past that allow you to kind of like see what's going on where the daily levels were, for instance, on a chart, you know, so that you don't have to have separate charts. You can just put it all on one chart. I was gonna talk about the drama that I was seeing on TikTok the other day. I don't know if I actually want to talk about it anymore. You guys are asking good questions. So it looks like we got a couple of new guys that were asking good questions. Forex Live did tweet risk trades push higher after core durable goods. Senior government source tells the BBC an agreement on the Northern Ireland Protocol has been reached. The deal is done. So I saw some people on Twitter rejecting that, but like, those people might not be in the know. You know, they might just get railroaded into doing it. I got a video. Oh, are you talking about the people that we don't like to use their names because, you know, it invites drama? Are you talking about that whole incident? I am familiar with that. I saw that happening. Yeah. That whole thing was crazy. You know what though? The funny thing though is that I think that it was like in his head. Like, you know, they didn't have a video that like the person coming to the door and you answering the door and then being confrontational with you or anything like that, right? It was just they suspected that it might have all been in his head. He was really wigging out, man. It was crazy. That one's so the one that's the thing that's funny to me is like it seems like YouTube has, or the algorithm has decided to push Inner Circle Trader. I think it may be partly because he really encourages his viewers to promote him, and so you're seeing a lot of questions about him on Reddit and stuff like that. And the people on Reddit are kind of starting to understand what's going on. Like the information about his past and like all of the drama with baby pips and all that sort of stuff has started to filter out. And so people will comment about it in the comments, but they're kind of like sly about it. They don't like straight up say like, okay, you don't want to watch Inner Circle Trader because he was exposed on baby pips, and there was drama for years. And he had this like account that it was supposed to be proving how good he was, and he blew the account and then left in shame and all this sort of stuff. They don't say all of that. They just say like, go to Baby Pips. I hear they know him really well. Maybe you should go ask Baby Pips. I was like, who are you talking about? Well, it was a thing between Vinny and Inner Circle Trader, but I digress. There are so I tell you what, man. Oh, this was so frustrating yesterday. So I had been using for my mailing list, I had been using MailChimp, which is the most popular like mailing list distribution thing out there. And apparently they, a long time ago, had decided that they will no longer allow you to use for like cryptocurrencies or anything related. So even though we're doing treasuries and stuff, they basically flagged me as the same thing. And I sent like a dispute to them, and it like immediately got rejected. So I'm like, okay, that's not gonna work. So I spent like, I had come in and decided, let's put the strategy PDF out. I know that I have, I just barely finished it, and we haven't had a whole lot of time to proofread it, but this is going to be a living thing. I don't care. I want it out there, and we'll fix it as we go along, right? And so I had already made that decision, made references to it in the video that comes out in 2 minutes here, and then I didn't have a way to distribute it with the mailing list anymore. So I spent a good portion of Sunday trying to find the right service to do it with. And there was actually more than one service, by the way. There was more than one service that I tried. Like, I would go through and look at what their qualifications were, right? To see, okay, prohibited content, anything relating to finance, and you can't do it, then they don't let. Okay, fine. Won't use them, right? So I found somebody, but it took forever because of that. And it's so frustrating to me to get lumped in, because all I'm doing is, look, I have some software that I made that I sell that's really quite cheap for what you're getting. Really quite cheap compared to what other people sell, at least. Only $100 when most people are selling similar things for $1,000 a pop, right? And I have affiliate links for sure, but these are all, again, pieces of software that do what they are supposed to do and work well. Okay. I get so frustrated being lumped in with all the bullshit that happens in the industry, just because I'm in the industry. It's really frustrating. What course would you recommend? Well, I have a bunch of videos on this. So I have an order flow video series. I have 1 or 2 videos on treasuries specifically. I have this PDF that you can sign up for. So if you want to go and sign up for the PDF, you can right now. The video is going to be up in a minute, but you go to speculatorsf.com/strategy.html, and you can sign up. And as soon as you sign up, it will send it to you in an attachment. And the email list that you're signing up for, you're only ever going to get emails from me, and the emails are going to be about when we've updated the indicators or the strategy document. It's not like a strategy. It's information for you to be able to develop your own strategy kind of document. All right. But that has a lot of information about correlations and stuff that you might want to know about for treasuries. So, yeah. Well, look, they're coming back up here to the highs. Is the dollar on the move again? Well, no, it's just the dollar coming back to here. I feel like that if I really felt strongly that this was going to revert, that this 22.5 area, actually, let's do it with a sim account, shall we? But I really recommend like going through all the free stuff first, like especially the free stuff on my channel, right? And getting getting some experience under your belt, like a year or 2 of experience under your belt, before you go out and buy education, because there a lot of the education just doesn't really help you, you know. And really, I think that the best stuff that's out there are like the books that we talk about, like the Financial Markets Under the Microscope book. If you want to know the real stuff about order flow, stylized behaviors of order flow, that's the book, man. Is there a huge difference between the Jigsaw DOM and the Sierra Chart DOM? I am thinking about switching because $50 only for the execution. Okay, so yeah, so number one, I would say that Sierra Charts is an acceptable replacement, and it is cheaper. But to get all of the order flow tools for Sierra Charts is $30 a month. Okay, so just realize you're saving like $20 a month, right? Or is it more than that? You're saving $20 or $30 a month. Okay. Most of the features that you got there in Sierra Charts, they stole from Jigsaw. Is really what it comes down to. The Sierra Charts are the ones that steal all of the features from everybody else, right? And that's why Sierra Charts is like has such a confusing interface and just seems so like, right. So that's the biggest downside to Sierra Charts, which admittedly is a pretty trivial thing, right? That's just overcome by just getting a lot of experience with the platform. But it's definitely not intuitive. Takes a little bit of work to get their DOM set up the way that you want to have it work, right? I don't think that they have. Do they have in Sierra Charts this whole thing where, you know, it will put a limit order or a stop order or a market order based on which price you click on? I think that Jigsaw may be the only place where that has that, but their well, they do have MBO stuff. That's right. Okay, what broker? So if you're going to use NinjaTrader, you have to use NinjaTrader brokerage at this point, unless you're in Canada, and then I forget the name of the broker, but there's like a broker for Canada. Yeah, so that's the biggest disadvantage of NinjaTrader right now. If you're going to use NinjaTrader for execution, you basically have to be on NinjaTrader brokerage. Sure. So the reason why I would still go with Jigsaw over Sierra Charts, though, is that because Jigsaw are like the originators of this stuff, right? They're far more innovative. I would say that Jigsaw has been a little slow lately, which is certainly frustrating. Like their development hasn't been as fast as I would like. But overall, you still get a better product. Like if there's like a new idea out there that is really valuable, you're gonna get it in Daytrader first. Right, and then Sierra Charts will catch on that it's a big thing and get it a year later or something like that. So I think those are kind of some of the advantages that you get from Jigsaw. But I totally understand. I know that a really large portion of my audience does the Sierra Charts because it is a little cheaper. I really wish. I don't know how you explain it to the point where it makes sense for them. Maybe it just doesn't make sense. I think that if you're gonna trade micro treasuries, that $50 is a bit much. $50 a month is a bit much. How much more business would they get? How many people would buy a micro license? Right, and how many people that have a full license would move to the micro license? Would they actually make more or less money? I don't know. They seem like not that interested in it, but the order execution is expensive though. I mean, it's and that's the other side of it too, is that like it's not cheap to develop these kind of applications, right? Like, I would really like to make my own platform, but if I made my own platform, I think that it would have to have a recurring monthly fee to be you know, that's, you need to have the income continuing to come in to be able to keep developing it, right? Use Continuum. Well, okay, so what I do is I'm using Edge Clear as my broker and Rhythmic as my data, and then I get the data through Rhythmic Trader Plus, and there's a plugin mode for Rhythmic Trader Plus. So then from there, if your applications are C# applications, which both NinjaTrader and Jigsaw are, then you can share the data to those applications. So I'm literally, even though I do have a full version of NinjaTrader, I'm using the trial version of NinjaTrader because that's the only way that it will let me connect to Rhythmic. and I connect both applications to Rhythmic. I think it's called Rhythmic Trader. Oh, it's Pro. You're right. It's Rhythmic Trader Pro. Sorry. But when you log in, there's a little checkbox to say plugin mode. And you have to turn that on. And then you can share it to as many applications as you want. Okay, so the strategy PDF, I'll give you the link here. http://speculatorseth.com/strategy.html. Sign up for that and it will email it to you. By the way, now that that video is out, what is this and why is it showing it to me? That's weird. Oh, wait, it doesn't show me the most recent videos? That's funny. There we go. Oh, look, I'm the first person to watch it. This is going to be interesting. Here, let me show you this real quick. I'm interested to see how the engagement at the first part of this video goes. Are you tired of losing money day trading? Then stop trading! There, that was an easy video. Okay, in all seriousness, we'll see if that turns people off to the video or not. Okay, so I was leaving a comment. One Seth was enough and now we have two. Oh my gosh. What do I want to say? What you guys think of it? And I will pin that comment. Okay. There we go. I'll give you guys the link to that one at the end of the stream. Make sure that you don't forget to go watch that. Can you just chat GP? No. So I have gone into it and told it, you know, like go and make like code for this or that, but like I really don't think that it's for somebody that actually like knows how to program. It was not useful. Like the code that it could actually write wasn't very good. Like it was just better for me to write my own code. And like, again, like the thing that drives me crazy is that ChatGPT is not going to write you a profitable trading algorithm. It's just not. It's going to go out and it's going to find like the most common strategies, right? Which you know aren't going to work. So. But if you're not a programmer and you don't know what you're doing, it might be useful to like get started on some stuff. Just realize that it's not going to give you anything innovative, which is really what you need to do. That's why you use NinjaTrader, right? So you can write innovative things. Do I want to add another contract here? If they give me this top of the range, then I'll take it. Otherwise, I think I'm going to be a little bit on the what is the word? 15. Okay. I'm going to be a little bit on the cautious side. Average trades range from 1 versus 8 for the free versions. Oh, you're talking about the commissions and everything. Yeah. I feel like the biggest downside to NinjaTrader 8 right now is you have to use their brokerage. Like I wasn't impressed with their brokerage service. I switched off of it. Was out there for like 6 months. Got off of it. Well, S&P 500 looks like maybe they want to try and start something. The dollar is taking new lows again. Oil getting hit here a little bit. Anyways. Yeah, so anyways, on the strategy PDF, like I wish that I had more time to like read over it multiple times and proofread it and so forth, but I just didn't. So it is what it is. If you see mistakes, go to the Google Doc and leave a comment, right? And we can make that document better over time. And then maybe someday we expand it and turn it into a book. I've already like it's 20 pages. It's 20 pages of single like default single spaced font. If I changed like the font size and did it double spaced and everything, like I've seen some trading books out there, right? It would be it would be like 100 pages, right? They didn't give it to me, but they did move down. I already knew that getting filled at 23 is probably a stretch. I don't know if it was a good idea for you. Well, I wouldn't call it unfinished. I would call it unrefined. It has all of the information in there that we want or that you need. And I have had you guys, so I have been linking it here for you guys for the past couple of weeks. So you guys have been looking at it a little bit and have given me a few suggestions. So. I like the book thing because like I have lots of videos and sometimes I feel like people will come in and ask me questions and I'm like, well, okay, I do have a video about that, but that's in this video and that's in this video, right? And this is one where it's like I feel like I'm getting all of the really critical information all into one spot. So I can only do it with text because it's just so much information, right? Like 20 pages, like my average video when I make a script, is 1 to 3 pages, right? So we're talking about like, you know, this would be multiple videos if I turned it into videos. ZN is a lot easier to read. I feel like it's a lot easier to read than other instruments, yeah. If you're learning order flow, I'd really highly recommend starting with the ZN for at least a little while because the order flow is so much more clear over there. And then when you switch over to other, you know, like a lot of other instruments, like ES, reading ES, it's pretty similar. It's just you have to watch it over multiple prices, what it does over multiple prices, and there's a lot more randomness in it, right? Man, I'm looking on Twitter here, and a bunch of people are talking about the Dilbert cartoonist getting canceled, which I'm kind of like, you know what? He said something dumb, so I really get concerned these days because, you know, I do believe in living in a liberal society where people should be encouraged to speak and have discourse, and that's a really important factor to the success of our society. And I don't like seeing things that could have a chilling effect on speech, right? But when people come out and say things that are dumb, it's hard, you know. Did you wait, Uzi? Did you see what he said? Did you see what he said? So like, here's the thing. I'm not gonna go all the way into what he said, but I think he has an assumption in there that's wrong. So what was the two things that he was saying? He was saying he was saying that you should not interact with people that might hate you, because eventually they'll do something to you know, like, that will really hurt you, essentially. And so his point was, you should, like, if there are certain group percentage of people in a group, or enough of a percentage of a people in a group that hate you, that you should just avoid the group entirely. And I think that's total bullshit. I think that's just such an awful thing to say. Like, we really, again, in order to have a successful society, the reason that this society works, and I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but the way that this society works is you have to interact with a variety of people, and having the variety of people and the variety of ideas, and then you know, pitting those ideas against each other in the forum of public opinion is what allows us to come up with good decisions and get as far as we have. So to come in and say, you should just, like, avoid an entire race of people is just, like, so wrong. It's just, I think it's a dumb thing to say. And he's said stuff to that effect in the past before, but this time he said it in a way that was, like, really designed to, like, get people's you know, jimmies in a rustle, I guess you could say, and it worked. And he's straight up canceled. Sorry, what is his name? Scott Adams. Scott Adams has been straight up canceled, and it's really hard for me to come in and say, like, well, you shouldn't cancel him, he doesn't deserve to be canceled, except because I don't agree with what he said. And it shouldn't be based on whether I agree or don't agree, right? And the thing that really bothers me is when you're seeing people that are being harassed and like sent death threats and all of this sort of stuff. right? That shouldn't be happening. But at the same time, I don't think that newspapers should have to have his cartoon. So what am I supposed to do? Oh, white. It's very white, but I wouldn't. That's what. Why does that matter? I've lived in areas that were not white. I've lived in areas that are not white, and I still think that it's important to. I don't think that you should avoid a whole race of people. That's just so wrong. It's so harmful to society. It really is. The reality is that we have moved into a society where just about anybody could try and screw you over, and I don't think that you should be more concerned about people from a certain race or another race being more likely to do that. I really don't. I think that the solution here is to live your life in accordance with your values, and don't put yourself in a position where you have the opportunity, where they have the opportunity to do that sort of stuff. There have been people, right? We've had these run-ins with traders from other channels that have really tried to undermine our community, and there's people that gone out and literally spent a whole week on their stream calling Seth a scammer. And you know what? Nobody takes it seriously. Everybody just goes, that guy is crazy, because they all know how trustworthy I am, right? I have a well-proven, solid reputation for integrity, right? So if people come in and make some sort of wild accusation, right? Everybody just laughs. Right? Now, if I was constantly doing and saying things that would give people some reason to think that I wasn't, right, then it would be a different issue. So that's all you can do. That's all you can do. And trying to say that avoid one group or another group is a fallacy, right? This again comes into these statistics that just because a group of people, like if you say this group of people there's 30% of them dislike you, and this group of people 10% of them dislike you, that doesn't mean that this person belonging to this group, that factor is very predictive as to whether or not they'll like you. That's not how the statistics work. It's a fallacy that's ingrained into our psyche, but it's not true. Well, I don't participate in white flight, right? It's just I live in Utah. It's always been like that. And Utah has been incredibly favorable to having people immigrate here and so forth. So and it is getting a lot more diverse in Utah compared to when I was a kid, although it's mostly Hispanic. It's not black per se, but oh well, I guess that's true. When I was referring to I lived in non-white areas, I was really referring more to my mission, right? Not. But I did move from an area that wasn't as nice to an area that was nicer. That's true. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that where you live is what he was talking about, right? He's saying that you're it seems to me like what he's saying is, no, I don't think that's. Why? How is that what he was saying? My reading of it, granted, I didn't watch that whole video, so maybe I'm wrong, okay? But my reading of it was if you're at work and you come across a person that is from a racial group that doesn't like you, you should just avoid them at work. That's what I was hearing, right? And I don't think that you move I think that you go to an area where the schools are good and where the infrastructure is good and all of those things. And it has nothing to do with what the racial makeup of the area is. That the racial makeup of the area is not a factor. The determining factor is, you know, how good is the education program there and stuff. NEMA heavily. There are areas in Utah that are not predominantly white that still have good schools. I moved to the area where I did primarily because that's where I grew up. Oh, it's like that all over in Salt Lake, man. The area that I lived in West Valley was nice and they had a good school. But like you're again, you're saying something that is, you're suggesting that the school is poor because it's black, and when really it's really more that the area is poor, and so that's where the poor black people end up having to go, right? Is it 65%? Oh, I don't know. Wow, that's moving against me with 2 contracts, in fact, so I don't like that. I'll take a small loss on that. Okay, yeah, 88% sounds more like it. But like I said, there are some areas where it is, so it's mostly the west side of Salt Lake where minorities live. Now, but I'm telling you, it's different. And you're trying to talk about these things in Salt Lake compared to like where you live in Florida in the South. I'm telling you, man, it is a completely different thing. Okay. So over here in Utah, yeah, there are poor areas and there are more minorities in those poor areas. But the biggest determining factor from what I can see as to whether an area has more minorities or not is how new the area is, right? Because Utah is experiencing a lot of growth, and a lot of that growth is coming from minorities, and so they go to the new subdivisions, okay? And there are areas that are really nice houses, and I would be more than happy to live in those houses, and it's primarily minorities around those. The place where I lived before were nice. My first place that I lived in, not my first place, but where I lived in West Valley was a nice house. And almost everybody that lived around me was a minority, right? So it's a fallacy to say that the area is bad because of the minorities, right? Chicken and egg. It's a chicken and egg problem. So even if that's what he was trying to say, I disagree with him. I really don't think that you should base where you decide to move or live on what the predominant racial makeup of the area is. I'm not going to go and open up a thing and say like, what are the percentages of them, and that shouldn't even factor into your decision making. I disagree with him on that. So yeah, he was, I think that going back, he was saying that if nearly 50% of a group of people polled say they dislike whites, being near them isn't beneficial. Okay. So I disagree with him. So number one, I don't think that is a good reason to disengage with a whole group of people. Okay. It is imperative in our society that we try and engage with everybody. Okay. And so whether or not they like me or not, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to try and interact with them. Okay. This is why I spend so much time on TikTok commenting and frankly making videos with people that are just absolute shitheads. Okay. People that clearly don't like me, right? But I still try and engage with them. I think that it's an important part of our society. Okay. That's number one. Number two, he is misreading the study. Okay. So if the poll was do you think it's okay to be white? Or do you agree with the statement that it's okay to be white? Okay. Well, so a good portion of them were not sure. And then like a quarter of them said that that wasn't okay. But the reason that they're going to say that is because that's been like this big thing, and the SPLC was all saying how bad it was and everything. And so a lot of those people are probably saying, I don't agree with that phrase, instead of expressing some sort of dislike of white people. Okay. So he's just absolutely distorting that study to push something that is frankly racist. And even if he was reading the study correctly, again, I don't think that it's okay to disengage from an entire group of people or for any kind of reason like that. You have to remember that Scott Adams is a leftist. Well, I think that I don't know what he is, man. I think that he's a media-driven attention whore is probably the primary driving factor in his ideology. Yeah, as a human, you are identifying patterns all the time, and a large portion of the patterns that we as humans identify are complete bullshit. They're fallacies. So again, you can go and you can say a 30% of a group has this attribute, okay? That does not necessarily mean the reverse of that. That if you take one individual from that group, that you can accurately predict that they're going to have that attribute, okay? So this is a fallacy, right? It is. Listen, if you don't understand it, then it's like the difference between probability and likelihood, right? So you're saying that because the probability, okay, if I have a let's say I have a jar of rice, okay, and some of them are long-grained rice and some of them are short-grained rice, right? And 30% of them are short-grained rice, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that I pick one out. So if I go and I pick out like 100 of them, then 30% of them should come out as short-grained, right? But the chances that I pick out one of them and I can say, well, I picked out one of them, so it's likely to be a long-grained rice because 60% of them are long-grained. That's not going to be, it's not the likelihood of that is not that high. It's not going to be a very effective predictor, right? So basing all of your decisions on that is like a really big fallacy. And it becomes even bigger when you're talking about like different groups and you get into some of these weird Bayesian probability issues, right? If I drop a glass where it will shatter. Well, there you go. That's... Don't agree with you. I mean, if that was his point, he should have said that and not have said something racist. Like that's the thing, is like nobody can defend you if you say something stupid, man. Yeah, but he also said like you should just avoid black people. That's literally what he said. He literally said like white people should just avoid black people. Like I don't see how you can possibly try to defend that, man. Yeah, we're talking about Scott Adams. So here's the thing. Here's kind of why I've been thinking, you know, it's the other thing that's been going in my mind is like, it seemed like for a time that cancel culture, I guess you could say, was not as strong of a story in the media. Like people were getting bored of it a little bit.
And, that with Joe Biden in office and everything, the news cycle's kind of really slowed down and people aren't interested in it. But what I found with the whole Harry Potter thing, holy shit, man. Have you seen all this crazy stuff with the Harry Potter game? Oh my gosh. These girls trying to stream this game on Twitch, and all of these people are harassing them and sending them death threats about it for playing freaking Harry Potter. Are you kidding me, man? Right? And there's been so much media drama over it and everything too. So it's still just as strong as it ever, the cancel culture out there, which is to say, people going out and trying to shame or ostracize people for holding certain opinions that they deem to be unacceptable, right? That is still 100% out there and just as strong as it ever was. And I guess the media was like not as interested in it or something, right? And so you had that whole thing going on, right? And then what happens? Scott Adams goes and says something stupid that gives him plenty of license to push this stuff, right? I don't care what it is. Seriously, I'm going to, if I have an opportunity to engage somebody in a meaningful discussion, I'm going to do it. And I don't care anything about their background. I don't care if they're rich or poor or black or white or anything. We want to have discussions with everybody. That's how our society progresses as a people, is the engagement. And when you start to go in and say, well, this group shouldn't engage with this group and that you're on a dangerous road. That is going to destroy your society, man. It is so wrong. That is what they are talking about, Lucas. He straight up said white people should avoid black people. That's what he said. It's like you can come in and say that the logical conclusion of these things that people are saying is segregation. Yeah. So what you're trying to do now is I think you're just making the same fallacy over again, right? Well, my Seth's experience, okay, and where he lives and who he interacts with on a daily basis has absolutely no bearing on whether or not we should try and engage with people of all types. Okay? You're completely changing the subject. It has no. Yeah, it's not disconnected from reality. It's not. It's not the HR viewpoint, okay? It's the classic liberal viewpoint, is what it is, right? At the end of the day, Seth, by disposition, is a classical liberal. He believes very strongly in freedom of speech, being, and having engagement with everybody, and proving ideas out in the battlefield of ideas, and having well thought out systems of government that help us progress as a society and create societal structures that create incentives that benefit everybody, right? Classical liberal. Yeah, I do. Forcing square pegs into round holes. This, you see, the ultimate problem here is that you ultimately believe that certain groups would just be better off not interacting with each other, and it's wrong. That is, in all honesty, a fundamentally racist thing to say.
and it's an anti-American thing to say, frankly, right? It doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care if a majority of that group would prefer not to. I don't give a shit. I still think it's important to try and engage with everybody. If they have that opinion, they don't want to be around white people, then it's contingent upon me to try and change their minds on that. Yeah, we don't have a lot of black people where I'm from, but we do have huge poverty, and no one wants to live in poor areas, no matter how inclusive they are. Yeah. You know what is like the thing that that really drives me nuts about that particular discussion is that, again, like some people try and make it that, well, the reason that these areas are poor is because they have black people. And the racist people will say, well, it's because, you know, black people just don't work very hard, et cetera, et cetera. They're more violent, whatever the deal is, right? And the far left progressives will say that the reason that that area is poor is because they've been oppressed by people, yada, yada, yada. Well, you look into the statistics about this sort of stuff, and like what empirically, you know, is not only like predicts what how poor an area is going to be, but how you improve an area and make it less poor, is it really has to do with enforcement, right? Is that these poor areas back in the 70s were not policed very well, and the crime was allowed to run rampant. And so nobody wanted to invest in those areas, right? So then the liberals come in and they're like, well, we need to defund the police. No, this is the exact opposite of what you should do. You should go in and police the areas hyper aggressively and have like a zero tolerance policy. And then, which they did in New York, by the way, Rudy Giuliani did a very, very, very good job at this. Turned New York practically into Disneyland over the course of a decade, right? But then they didn't encourage the investment into the area, so they didn't build up, right? But if you invest into the communities at that point and you get the businesses and the economic growth and everything, and then those areas will want to continue to have, you know, good policing. And I guess the police can kind of relax a little bit because there just won't be as much crime overall. And it will have nothing to do with the racial makeup of the area, right? It's frustrating. So you have this one of these issues where it's like, we know what to do, but neither the Democrats or the Republicans will let us do it. Because the Democrats, they don't want to have more policing, and the Republicans don't want any development to go into anywhere other than their community. It's stupid. It's stupid. I'm hearing a lot of projection going on over here, folks. Right? It is important as we as a society to engage with everybody. Okay, this has nothing to do with like a white savior complex or anything like that. This is, how do we work as a society? Anybody that doesn't understand that that's how we work as a society and that's why our society is effective, then we need to teach them why we do those things. We have to instill in them, educate them on why we have the liberal values that we do, and why liberal values as a nation that we've always had have made the United States so effective, right? There are we would like to set up structures and things like that, right? Well, one of the structures that we have is our culture. And now you're all trying to tear that culture down because you don't want to try or something like that. I think it's ridiculous. You should try and engage with everybody. That's just period. And what Scott Adams said was not appropriate or correct. And if you come in and say like Scott Adams said nothing wrong, he didn't say anything wrong, then you got serious issues, my friend. I think you need to think it through a little bit more. You shouldn't have said that. And like furthermore, like here's the other thing is that again, like what I continue to see in our society that just is like the thing that's like irritating and getting under my skin more than almost anything right now is that people continue to act because they don't know what they're doing. They continue to act in a way that is contrary to what they actually want to have happen, right? That if you you know, the people that think like Scott Adams, okay, like you haven't helped anything. Like seriously, how does Scott Adams saying that help anything, help anyone? What goal are you moving towards with that? Think of it that way, right? If we just take what he's saying at face value, what is the general effect that we would expect to see based on him saying that and into how it would influence people? Segregation. It is. That's the logical conclusion of it. Do you want segregation? If you're a segregationist, then go away. Right? That's the same thing. Like it just drives me, like the feminists. It drives me crazy. I think that it's a good thing to champion the causes of women, and as long as it doesn't harm other groups of people, and we can do that. But then you get these just crazy group of people that just want everybody to hate them or something. You can't say anything. You can't say anything, and they're just all over you. And it is the problem with the left in general is like, this is why the Democrat Party is having like a really hard time right now. Is because if I go on a TikTok and some leftist says something, right, and I just challenge them a little bit on it. Okay, if I just say something that's like super innocuous, just kind of like product, you know, just kind of exploring, okay, how do they react to this? How do this? And it's just like they completely blow up, and you get this, just the swarm comes after you. You have to die because you've challenged the orthodoxy, and we're gonna beat you into submission. And you look at that and you think, well, okay, so that happens for tribal reasons, right? That this is kind of like the human tendency in tribalism is we need to have like the group be unified in ideology so that we can act in unity, because that tends to be a more effective predictor of winning in a conflict than anything else. Okay. But what you're doing in a liberal society like America, what you're doing is you're just pissing everybody off. Anybody that would have liked to have helped you or might have been partial to helping you out doesn't want anything to do with you because they're afraid that you're just gonna rip their head off. And so the popularity of feminism has been on the decline since 1992. It's 100% the attitude that people have taken on over there. It's not, I mean, I guess there's some ideas too that have kind of crept into feminism that a lot of people don't agree with, but I think it's largely to do with style. You gotta like think these things through, man. So yeah, I'm disheartened every time that I see. I think cancel culture is bad, right? Why is cancel culture bad? Because we need to engage with everybody, and people should feel safe to express their opinions, because you don't want to get into a situation where there's something that needs to be said that's really critical to the successes of our society, and people are afraid to say it. But that's where this is going towards, is that they're trying to chill speech. They want people to be afraid to speak up about things. Like, good grief. Here I am just trying to explain why what he said was bad, and like I'm kind of scared about saying it and you know, explaining why what he said was unacceptable, even though that is kind of in line with the orthodoxy. It's like you're afraid to talk if it's just the certain subject, even if you're on the right side of it. That's not good for society. It's not good. And every time that somebody like Scott Adams comes up and says something stupid, you're basically giving them fuel on the fire to say, yeah, these people should be. What he's saying is segregation, man. The trying was successful. So I had this, my gosh. So I had this thing with somebody the other day over the Harry Potter thing, right? It wasn't the other day, it was yesterday. I'm dropping it because nobody engaged with it, and this guy is just not very bright. So he was saying, oh well, you know, there's cancel culture is not a thing, and I was like, yeah, it is. Hey, like, people are getting, they're trying to cancel people for playing Harry Potter. Like, it's literally, you stream the game and the mob comes for you. And there are these girls that have been getting death threats and all of this other crazy stuff. There's a story. You know, I don't have a whole lot of confirmation of this story other than from one Australian outlet, but there is a story. The girl said that she was assaulted for streaming the game. Like, this is absolutely crazy shit, right? And oh my gosh, like, again, it's like they just, you prod them on it and they just come after you. He made like a response to one of my comments, and so I made a Stitch video, and I felt like the Stitch video like really effectively took him down. But like, then he tried to argue in the comments about it, and he was saying all these crazy things. Like, his argument was, well, but they're not, like, the game is popular and people are watching the streams, so that means that cancel culture is not a thing. Well, okay, just because it's not being successful in this one instance doesn't mean that it's not happening. People are still being harassed about it. The cancel culture out there still exists. There are groups of people that are trying to shame, ostracize, and harass people into not streaming Harry Potter. That's what we define as cancel culture. 100% exists. And then, like, I would respond to that, and then, like, one comment later again, he would just say the same thing. And I'm like, dude, you're talking in circles. I already disproved that. I already destroyed that argument, right? I already showed why that argument is a complete and utter fallacy. And you're repeating it again. Are you, like, actually a real person? Are you a robot? Have you just been so thoroughly programmed you don't know how to have a real conversation with people to say, okay, this is what they said, so what can I say that would prove the fallacies and problems with their arguments? They weren't doing that. They were just repeating the same stupid shit over and over again. And it drives me crazy. Then this is where I'm saying, like, I come back and I'm like, okay, why does it seem like everybody's stupid? Okay. Why does it seem like everybody's stupid? No, I'm not trying to be PC, for the record. I'm trying to prove to you a real logical. It seems to me that the way that I explained this was not effective. Okay. Let me try and relate it to trading to show you why this matters. Okay. If I can come in here and I can say that there has been a head and shoulders pattern, and 55% of the time when this quantitative pattern appears, it moves down. Okay. The fallacy you're making is that you think because I have seen this pattern, the correct thing for me to do in this instance is for me to go short because 55% of the time it goes down, right? That's the fallacy. Trying to apply those attributes to a specific instance of a person is not very effective. Trying to say that because this person is black, they're likely to be a former criminal is not, that's the logical fallacy. It doesn't work like that, right? And the reality is, when you're watching that head and shoulders pattern, that there are so many other things out there other than the pattern that you saw that's going to predict which way it's going to go, that matter way more than that it was a head and shoulders pattern. And it's the same thing that you're looking at an individual from a particular race, or you're looking at, why is somebody live in a poor area, or any of those sorts of things. It's a fallacy. So it's a statistical fallacy. I don't know how else to explain it to you. And so that's point one. And then again, point two is that we're talking about structures. How do we have an effective society, right? One of the foundations of our society is liberalism, which means what? It means that we are okay with other people having other opinions, right? And that we want a diversity of opinions and a diversity of people, and we want those opinions and different groups of people to interact with each other as much as possible, so that we can sort out what are the most effective solutions to problems. That's liberalism, right? It's not some PC. No, it's not. It's not. I care about what's effective. That's what's effective. Then for Scott Adams to come out and say like, oh, you should just avoid them altogether. It's not an appropriate thing to say in a liberal society. It's not. It's not in accordance with our values as a nation. It's just not. And it's not what we have found to be effective as a nation. It's not. Okay, I'm sensitive to the concerns of people, especially in Europe, that feel like that the government is trying to like erase their culture and their values and their identity. It is a real thing, okay? But that does not mean that with the people that are already here in our nation, that groups should segregate. That's wrong, right? I wonder how bad it's going to be for Scott Adams. I wonder now, because here's where what the next step is I think well, that is true that people do tend to segregate to ourselves. I mean, that's kind of the problem, isn't it? Right? Is that or well, let's not call it the problem. That's I would say the innovation that America had was the realization that people on the whole are not liberal by nature, and that we have to protect those liberal values within the Constitution to protect them. Right? That's what the whole Constitution was about. Well, I mean, in one respect, you could say that that's what the whole Constitution was about. Right, people do tend to want to segregate, but that doesn't mean that it's okay. Well, so again, this has nothing to do with where you live, okay? You can engage with people without having to live in the same neighborhood as them. Okay, you should go and have the kind of house and the kind of school and all of the other whatever amenities that it is that you can afford and that you want, and those should be the reasons that you decide to live somewhere. It has absolutely no relevance, man. Do you see the fallacy? This is an ad hominem fallacy, right? You're saying, well, because Seth lives with white people, he must be wrong about this. No, it has no relevance to the issue. But well, you're telling everyone we have to engage while never having to do the same thing. So number one, engaging does not mean that you have to live next door to them. Okay. Although I would have to say, you go out there and you want a house and you say, I want to buy a house that's going to be $600,000. It needs to have this many rooms. I want it to be nice. And you go to this house and you think this house is just absolutely nice. We want to put an offer in. And then you find out that a black family lives next door and you say, oh, actually, no, we're not going to buy that house anymore. You're racist. You are. So again, the race of the people around you isn't a factor, right? It's not. Is it the house to have the things that I want? Okay. But you don't have to live next to people to engage with them, especially in the internet age, right? Especially in the internet age. Everybody should be able to talk and share their ideas. Everybody. And you can talk to people of all types on the internet, and you can create small niche groups of people that you would just never be able to create anywhere else based on shared interests or shared ideals, right? And what color their skin is should not be an important factor in any of that, right? What the demographics of my income bracket are completely irrelevant to the subject. Again, you're bringing up something that is completely irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. No, I'm not talking about my experience in the matter. I'm talking about what we know based on a lot of history, what is effective, and the ideals and principles that our nation is founded upon, right? Again, you're just, yep, I hear blah, 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 a bunch of shit that has nothing to do with the subject, man. Here's how I view this conversation. Seth is pointing out why what he said was wrong, and then you're bringing up a bunch of other racist shit that has nothing to do with what he said. Okay, so let's just assume for a moment that I have zero experience with the subject. It has no bearing on whether or not the conclusion is true. So again, you're trying to use a logical fallacy to push your argument, right? Well, here's the argument that I should be seeing. The argument that I should be seeing is, well, if we did what Scott Adams said, then that would have this benefit or that benefit, and we can show that it would have those benefits. You're not going to say that because guess what? It doesn't have. Okay. Segregation is just bad for society in general, all right? Your conclusion doesn't play out in reality. If it did, that's not true at all. If my conclusion didn't play out in reality, this nation wouldn't exist anymore. This wouldn't be the strongest, most successful nation on earth, because it is primarily the liberal values that the nation was founded upon that have created the success that the United States has had. And now for some reason, because we have the internet and our stupid, more base animal instincts and fallacies can come out, we also somehow all of a sudden there's a group of people that think that we should change that. And I don't think that they realize what they're saying. Because, like, again, think out what you're saying logically to its conclusion. It's disgusting. Or rather, think out what Scott Adams is saying to its conclusion. Because what is the end conclusion that he has? It's that races should segregate. That's what he's saying. I don't think that we basically live it. Just because I live in Utah where there's never been any, you know, because a group of white people went out and founded a place and that's all, everybody that lives there is just the descendants of them. It doesn't have it has no applicability, right? So, like, you're going again, you're like, here's what's happening is you've got this brain pathway. You've thought about this too much that you're not able to differentiate how that has any relevance. Has zero relevance. Again, has zero relevance. What is it? What is, okay, so here's the question. How does what you're saying have any relevance to either what is the most effective thing that we should do in our society, or whether or not what Scott Adams said was okay? Right? Okay, so because so what you're saying is because Seth is white and he lives in a white neighborhood, that means that what Scott Adams said is okay? No. I didn't choose to live here because there was white people. It never factored into the decision at all, man. I moved into the house that I did because my parents lived down the street and I grew up here. That's it. It's not relevant to the issue. Yeah, if the end conclusion would be disgusting if it was that we try and cut off all contact with people of other races and avoid them all completely. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting life. It's a disgusting world. It's not the world that we live in here, okay? If a black family moved in next door, that would be great. I wouldn't think twice about it. Because the race of them has no pertinence to anything. See, what Scott Adams said is this. Again, think about what he's saying to his logical conclusions. Scott Adams is saying if a black family moved next door to Seth, that Seth should not talk to them. That's not what would happen. I know my neighbors, and I feel it's very important to know who my neighbors are and interact with them. And it would make no difference to me what race the people were. I would try and get to know them as best as I can. I'm not very good at that, but I'm not super social, admit, but I still know my neighbors pretty well. Better than most people in America do. I guess I could say like that. And the race of the people that would move in next to me would have no bearing on my willingness to interact with people, right? So you say, what is the odds of that happening? It doesn't matter. That's not what Scott Adams was talking about, right? Scott Adams' point was not that black people all tend to live in one area and white people tend to all live in one area. That's not what he said. He said that white people should avoid black people. That's what he said. So again, stop saying things that aren't relevant to the issue. I can tell you, listen, I've lived next door to black people. The place where I lived before they were black. They were great. They were great neighbors. Come on. I always bothered me over there that people in that neighborhood, well, because it's condo, people don't like to talk to their neighbors for some reason, but it didn't bother me. I never thought twice about it, man. And actually, to be honest, the black neighbors that I had were better than the Asian neighbors that lived there before them, but had nothing to do with them being black or Asian. It just had to do with what kind of music they liked, because they were loud. The Asians were. And again, I moved where I moved because that was where I grew up, and we knew we were going to have kids and that we would need help. When we did, and it was a good thing that we moved. Right? So now you're trying to imply that I moved somewhere because there was minorities there. It's preposterous, man. Again, that groups of people all tend to live in the same place has no relevance to the issue that we're talking about, because that's not what Scott Adams said. He didn't say there's more crime in this group than another group, or that this place is a better place to live than this place. That's not what he said. He said white people should avoid black people. That's what he said. Right? And based on what he said, my interpretation of it is that if you have a black neighbor move in, or you're at church and there's a black family at church, or you're at a convention and there's black people, or you're traveling and there's, that you should avoid them. That's what he said. Is that not what he said? Come on. How is that in any way an appropriate thing to say? It's not. Both from you know, like it's an awful thing to say morally, I think. It's not in line with American values, I think. It's not an effective way to approach a problem. It's just, the whole thing is just wrong all around. Yeah, he should be canceled for it. I mean, I hate the canceling thing, but I don't understand how you can expect to say things like that and not get taken off of, you know. Market is going to zero since I've started. Well, so racism, that's the whole thing, is I think over time I have kind of intuitively learned to some extent when the market is going to move and when it's not, and when I'm much more likely to try and get into a conversation like this when I know that the market's not going to do anything interesting. Of course, I will miss moves sometimes because of that, but no, this is why it bothers me. Is like, I would, so I think that there's kind of degrees to it, right? Okay. So like, if Scott Adams had somebody come to his house and harass him at his house because of what he said, that would be inappropriate. Okay. If people were, when he does his live stream, right? He does a live stream every morning. If people were coming in and harassing his live stream, that would be inappropriate. If people were sending Scott Adams death threats, that would be inappropriate. If people were intentionally saying and doing things to try and cause Scott Adams emotional distress, that would be inappropriate, right? And that's what cancel culture is that it's a way to try and bully people into holding to an orthodox series of views, right? At the same time, there are views in our society that people are just going to hold to be inappropriate, and I would like to see as much interaction as possible. Okay, but I don't necessarily care if neo-Nazis are involved in the conversation. Okay, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, if we're going to have our discussion, we need to go and find a representative from the neo-Nazis. I don't give a shit. I didn't give a shit with them, right? So yeah, there are degrees in here to it, right? And I guess what I'm saying is that it's not so much that like I disagree with him so much as it is that it's like, here's somebody that was saying interesting things at times, and could have added to the conversation, and he just removed himself from the conversation because he insisted on saying something dumb. That's why it bothers me. Because there's just no way you can reasonably expect to say that sort of a thing and still be on television and stuff. And that's not cancel culture. That's just like, you've taken it too far, you know? Yeah, if you say something racist, you're definitely going to get canceled. Well, so again, if there was more to it, then why didn't he just say the other stuff that was more to it and not say the thing that was the racist conclusion that he made? Explain that to me, right? And again, like, and that's where, like, if you just trace the logic, right? He's fucking up at every step, right? Because the survey that he's reading, he reads that survey as 50% of black people either don't like you or aren't sure about you. That's not what that study said, man. That is not what that study said. Like, when you look at what the study actually was, it's kind of a dumb study, right? I mean, maybe it's interesting, but it really doesn't tell us anything useful. So like it, and the whole thing is that he said the thing that he said, right? He said white people should avoid black. Like, he said that. That was that like his exact words? Let's see here. What was his exact words? Was his exact words? Adam called black Americans a hate group, among other things. Come on, man. Like, really? They gotta have some optimism in these difficult times, for sure. Yeah, but again, like let's just assume, if for the sake of argument here, we give Scott Adams the benefit of the doubt and he wasn't trying to say something racist, then why would you say that, right? Like, there are just certain things in the way that you say it, and I understand that people make mistakes and that sometimes you don't really realize what you're saying, but in this society, there's a certain line that in any society you're still going to get punished for it, right? And I think that Scott Adams crossed that line. I think that Scott Adams crossed the line where any reasonable in any reasonable society that newspapers and so forth wouldn't want to be associated with him. I think he crossed that line. And more to the point, and he crossed the line to the point that I feel like an obligation to explain to people that don't seem to understand why it's a problem, right? To be honest, he must know too, because like he said, like all my income will be gone by Monday, etc. Like, well, okay, so if we were going to try and make a point, so if I'm going to try and I think I understand what you're trying to say, and it might not be of what he was trying to say, but if I was going to be trying to make that point, what I would say is this, that there are some attitudes that are quite entrenched in the minority community that are quite discriminatory towards other groups outside of their minority. And this is another problem that I would say can hold a minority or an ethnic group back, is that again, we are a multicultural society. You can argue about, you know, whether societies should be multicultural or whether multicultural versus homogenous societies are better. But the reality is that we here in America have been and have always been basically a multicultural society. And in a multicultural society, in order to get this to work, groups need to interact with each other. And that when there are attitudes like that, that we should put some effort into trying to dispel some of those attitudes, because they're not necessary, right? That's what I would say. But that's not. But we're not a multicultural society by force. Every person that came here to the United States chose to do it. And the people back then, when the majority of these groups immigrated over, were okay with it being with the immigration. It's true that whites are the only demographic. Well, it's not. I think that again, you're misinterpreting that study too, right? It's so the thing about that study that was alarming wasn't that they had an out-group preference. It was that they actively disliked their own group, right? That's different. It's one thing if you go and you say, do you like this group of people? And then you had all of the races, and what would be ideal is that all groups said that they liked all groups. That should be the goal, right? But white people are weird because they say they don't like white people and they like the other groups. That's where, or at least liberals are, right? That's weird, right? And that to me is evidence of like ideological people holding to ideological orthodoxy doesn't make much sense, right? That they're being manipulated by propaganda into the believing or saying those things. That's what I think that says, right? Your ideals are trying to dance with unwilling participants. How do you expect to run a society otherwise, man? Like, come on. Right? So again, I come back to, what is the logical conclusion of this? The logical conclusion of what you just said there is, okay, so we should just accept that some racial groups don't like other racial groups, and all of those people in that racial group should all move to Alabama and then separate from the Union. Like, that's the only way that goes if you're going along with what you just said there, man. How else does that turn out? There's only one other way to take that one, right? That we continue to live together as a nation and work things out together as a nation in the same way that we have for the past 300 years. Yeah, that's the logical conclusion of what I'm saying. No, not going to say that it's easy. I'm not going to say that it's people's natural inclination, but I am going to say that it's the right thing to do, and it's the effective thing to do, and it's the thing that we've always done. And that we can do it. Nobody's going to die. Where do you get that people are going to die? Try and segregate everybody. That's going to cause people to die, man. Okay, because migrations like that are not bloodless. Okay, so now you're trying to say if races don't segregate, that people will be killed? Like what? Sorry, no. I mean, okay, so you're saying that they already have, but that's not true. I mean, it's not like things are completely homogeneously integrated, and not that they necessarily have to be, okay? But that's where I'm saying that, like, what Scott Adams is proposing is a further segregation than what is already the case right now, right? Because he literally basically said that, you know, it only makes sense if you're a white person to avoid black people, right? That would imply that you're even saying something about like how you should interact with people at work or church or wherever else you might encounter them, right? So he is encouraging a further segregation, right? It's not. I don't think that is what he was saying, but I don't think that would be acceptable either. Right. When you start to say that, it's like you're proposing that there is a black nationalist movement in the United States that wants to move and create their own state and stuff like that, and that's not the case, right? And even if you have okay, like there are people that live in California that kind of tend to hold a certain kind of belief, and there are people in Utah that tend to hold a certain kind of belief, okay? They still have to interact with each other, especially on a national level, right? Okay, but it doesn't matter. No, you're saying that black sentiment doesn't favor whites, but we're talking about Scott Adams. So first of all, that's false. Okay. Or at least it's not to the degree of which Scott Adams was claiming, because he's basically saying it was 50% of black. Okay, so first of all, it's not nearly to the degree of which Scott Adams says, and that study does not allow us to see what that sentiment actually was. So for starters, that's false. Okay, but then for second of all, that doesn't justify the conclusion that he made about what people should do about it, right? Anyways, I gotta go. I'm really quite shocked that anybody would try and like, it seems to me like even Scott Adams is saying that what he said was inappropriate. It sounds like he kind of understands that maybe he misspoke or didn't intend to say something, or I don't know. I'm surprised that anybody would try and justify it. But whatever. Gotta go. I will see you guys tomorrow. Stay excellent, team. Watch the video. Oh yeah, we gotta put this video in here. I have a good video. Let's have a good video. I don't think people enjoyed that conversation. I didn't enjoy that conversation. See you later.